the USS Oriskany. She was a fearsome presence in the wars at Korea and Vietnam. She hasn't served the U.S. Navy in more than 30 years. Now a rusted veteran awaiting burial at sea.
Golly, it's like putting a legend on the bottom.
But the Oriskany has one final mission before she's laid to rest. A salvage crew races the clock to strip the last of her riches.
So this is what we're pulling out. Gold, copper gold.
Their mission is to remove tons of hazardous material from this floating city.
Pretty dangerous down there. Crack your skull open, something bad will happen.
Then she will be towed more than 500 miles across the open sea. But the mighty Oriskany won't go without a fight. As her end approaches, a bomb squad will rig the ship with lethal quantities of explosives.
We do not want to have an accident, and these kind of accidents kill.
Then this giant will be scuttled, creating the largest artificial reef in the world. It's a high-stakes project to sink the unsinkable. Over the centuries, countless ships have been destroyed by war or scuttled to make artificial reefs. But no one has ever reefed an aircraft carrier. Docked at Corpus Christi, Texas, the decommissioned Oriskany is the first vessel chosen for the U.S. Navy's artificial reef program. Sinking the largest and most complex warship on Earth will test the skills of one of the best marine demolition crews in the world. Their goal is to sink the aircraft carrier with explosives. But you can't just drop a couple of bombs on an aircraft carrier and expect it to sink. It's built to stay afloat, under any circumstance. It's a top-secret ship, and the Navy doesn't want the designs to fall into the wrong hands. It will take months of planning for the team to unravel the mystery of how to sink the unsinkable.
When this ship was constructed decades ago, there were thousands of engineers and shipbuilders who gave their best efforts to ensure that this ship would never sink. This is not a trivial task, and it will require almost as much effort as it took to build the vessel to finally sink the vessel.
It will take thousands of hours of scraping, torching, and hydroblasting to prep the aircraft carrier for sink day. The team will be working 7 days a week and will have only 8 months to complete the job. It's an incredibly complex vessel, a floating city filled with every supply and service imaginable. Everything that 2,600 crew members would need to live and fight at sea for months at a time. It has 4 separate kitchens, sleeping quarters, hospitals, machine shops, and radar installations. Everything from dental offices and barber shops to shoe repair and movie theaters. Literally thousands of rooms, and the team is still discovering new ones every day.
I've been crawling the ship hard for 3 months, about 10 hours a day, and just due to the sheer magnitude of the ship, I still come across every now and then a room that I've not ever seen before.
But after 30 years in storage, the ship is in a rusted and decrepit state. It's full of lead-based paints, oil, aviation fuel, asbestos, and PCBs. All toxic materials that have to be removed so she won't poison the ocean environment. Oriskany's journey from warship to reef began in September 1976. After an eventful and storied career, Oriskany was decommissioned twice before finally being stricken from the Naval Registry in 1989. She joined a large number of U.S. warships left to rot in storage. After 2 failed attempts to sell this monstrous vessel for scrap, the Navy chose her for the artificial reef program. People around the world have been creating reefs for centuries. Artificial reefs are created when obsolete vessels are sunk. They form an outcropping for sponges and coral to colonize. Today, reefs attract recreational fishing and sport diving to boost the local economy. Many Gulf states competed to have oriskany reefed in their waters. The state of Florida won the bidding, and her environmental remediation began. Don Herring is project manager and the man assigned by the Navy to verify that every job is done to strict environmental standards.
We can, oh yeah, you don't have a ladder, do you?
He has to inspect every square inch of the ship looking for toxic waste. Literally crawling through thousands of rooms and 565 tanks.
We're checking in the tanks to make sure there's no oil, no residual, no hydrocarbon type material left in the tanks. So when the ship's actually reefed, we don't leave any hazmat into the water.
Some as large as an aircraft hangar. Others as small as a coffin. But cleaning is just half the project. The sink plan is the other half.
I think the contractor put a good sink plan together. It's going to flood basically without any mechanical means. And they decide how much water she can ballast, how much displacement she can take on, how the water has to move, where it has to move, and when it has to move. Quite involved.
Involved is an understatement. The job is nearly impossible. Since World War II, not one U.S. Navy aircraft carrier has been sunk in action. To do so during war means first getting by rings of defenses. A cone of aerial protection, escort vessels, and even submarines are part of the package. If an attacker makes it past these lethal weapons, it is faced with 4-inch armor plating, surrounding an inner core of over 1,000 rooms, each one capable of being isolated for flotation. Nothing short of a nuclear bomb can sink one. Aircraft carriers came into their own during the Pacific Campaign of the Second World War. They revolutionized combat by providing a highly mobile air station that could supply a constant barrage of aerial attacks to the most isolated battle arenas. One of the most daunting things about the Oriskany Reef project is her size. At 911 feet long and 145 feet across the beam, she displaces 30,800 tons. Something this big needs serious moorings to keep it in place. It's secured at the dock using dozens of lines. The most effective are these massive chains. Two of them lead to gigantic anchors, weighing in at a whopping 33,000 pounds each, buried 25 feet into the earth.
It's a nice little anchor. And this is only the flukes. So the anchor goes down probably another 5 feet. So it's pretty big. I gotta try and get out of here. Definitely was easier going down.
Frank Leckie is an expert on ship demolition, but he's never seen anything this big before.
There's so much to do in so short a time. For instance, the lighting of the ship. We ran 25,000 lights throughout the whole ship. And 25,000 feet of lights, just for instance, it's every 10 feet apart you have a light. That's 125,000 feet long. That's just one small phase of it, one just small part of it.
Every aspect of this job is a huge challenge. The peeling paint, for example, contains lead, and it's all got to go.
We were tasked with 29 tons. Halfway through, we got 29 tons, and we were only halfway finished. We ended up saying, okay, we'll just fill up 24 dumpsters. We ended up filling 50 dumpsters.
The USS Oriskany was a ship caught in a fundamental shift in naval history, the end of World War II. Her construction began in May of 1944, and she was supposed to become the most modern ship fighting the war in the Pacific. But the war ended before the Oriskany was put to sea.
The USS Oriskany, 27,000-ton Essex-class aircraft carrier, awaits launching at the New York Navy Yard. She is the first United States capital ship completed since war's end.
At that time, she was only able to launch and land propeller-driven aircraft, and her role in the fleet was uncertain. She was redesigned with more powerful hydraulics, steering system, bridge and flight deck to launch jet fighters. By 1952, she was reclassified an attack aircraft carrier and truly became the Mighty O. She was a strategic player in the wars at Korea and Vietnam. Right through to the 1970s, the Oriskany was one of the busiest ships in the U.S. fleet.
Time is 3-3. The altimeter 2982. The temperature 84.
The bomb elevators, once used to raise her firepower, are now the key to her demise. Like miners working a coal seam, the demolition team uses these shafts to cut deeper into the ship. The engine rooms are where the most toxic chemicals and hazardous materials are hiding.
We developed, we call mine shafts that go all the way down to the main engine rooms, but also they feed each of the levels. We had to cut through 2-inch armor plating, Class A armor plating here. And then on level 4, just before the engine room down here, if you can look all the way down, we had to cut through armor plating again.
From 6 stories below the flight deck, every level has to be cleaned of grease and oil. And the only thing that can handle decades-old grime is a hydroblast, or extreme pressure washing that peels away the filth with over 8,500 pounds of force.
About to start some hydroblasting down at the bottom of the ship. Gonna do the floors and some valves down there. Gonna get it all blasted out. It's all about stance. You gotta stand right. If you don't stand right, you'll slip, you'll fall, crack your skull open. It's pretty dangerous down there.
Some of the tanks are only accessible by narrow ladders that descend 60 feet, straight down. Not only are they operating in tight spaces, they have to contend with the heat. At a scorching 110 degrees, nothing is easy.
What you can notice were you to enter the tank is it's not only extremely hot, there's no airflow whatsoever. Okay. It's somewhat oily, and it's approximately 50, 60 feet deep, and one has to go down a real narrow rotation of people because
The Navy only used the best metals when they made a ship, several for now. Gold, copper gold.
But the mother lode is on the outside of the ship.
This is the starboard elevator. The planes came from here and were taken up this way. Anything over the water like this is
and conditions of all the food. Go into that, lay on its side, except it'll be underwater.
Not seeing any passage yet. Boat divers, you're a little bit too far out. You need to swim forward of the ship.
The divers are working in less than 50 feet of water.
For a diver to lose his air or lose his mask and then panic and come to the surface, that's
having success.
Okay.
Come on, guys.
All the time. Place the charges in the wrong spot or use an incorrect amount of explosives, and the ship could flood unevenly. And the project would end in disaster, as the ship would roll and sink on its side.
Everything will detonate simultaneously, and the ship should settle on an even keel. We're using a double redundant system to ensure that all
and the ship could flood unevenly. Place the charges in the wrong spot or use an incorrect amount of explosives, and the ship could flood unevenly. And the project would end in disaster, as the ship would roll and sink on its side.
Everything will detonate simultaneously, and the ship should settle on an even keel. We're using a double redundant system to ensure that demolition material left in the ship.
If all goes according to plan, the top of Oriskany's control, or conning tower, will stand 55 feet below the surface. That makes her a prime sport diving site. And that's a crucial reason not to leave behind any unexploded ordnance that could put an unsuspecting diver's life at risk. This won't be the first time the mighty O has felt the devastating impact of explosives. On October 27, 1966, a signal flare accidentally ignited a chain reaction of explosions in Oriskany's forward hangar bay.
And when we went in there, the fire was going up the side of the building. We went to turn on the hoses on the side of the magazine, and when somebody hit it with water with the other hose, the magnesium explodes when you hit it. And it just went like it was raining fire.
Entombed by armor plating, the men inside never had a chance.
Fire is the most dangerous. Most of the people that died on that fire died from suffocation. They didn't die from burns. Well, they got burned after they suffocated.
It was the worst disaster in the Oriskany's history. 44 pilots and crewmen lost their lives. As the remediation team rushes to prepare Oriskany for her own burial at sea, Mother Nature throws them a curve.
We had a very unusual semi-tropical storm that passed through. It rained at least several inches, and it's not a major concern for the safety of the project, but what we have to do is be concerned about cleaning up water that entered the vessel's structure so that there's no effect on stability.
But this certainly isn't the last complication the team will face. The Navy is happy with the work that the remediation team has done so far. The state of Florida, however, has decided the Oriskany is not safe enough to be scuttled in their waters.
But it looks like they want to make the thing a little more diver safe, diver friendly.
And bundles of cables such as this that are hanging down, these are the potential entanglement items that we'd like to remove. As well as something like this, I'll go ahead and spray this. Everything that's green has got to go.
They've marked out some cabling, overhead obstructions and stuff like that. We're running into a little bit of a problem time-wise. We're approaching hurricane season, so we need to either hurry up and get it done if they want to get this thing towed over to Florida before hurricane season kicks in.
The extra work doesn't end with entanglements. The wiring as well as the wooden flight deck contain PCBs. It's one of the most toxic substances in the world, and all of it has to go. That puts more pressure on the team as they race to beat hurricane season.
We did a calculation, counted wires, length of the island, etc., how many levels, and we estimate that there was probably close to 200 miles of cable in this superstructure alone. All of these have to come out. These are called cable trunks, mostly communication cables. We can't use torches because the cables contain PCBs. As soon as you heat them and put flame to them, a lot more aggravation, but it's what you got to do to get it out right. This is a pile of cable that one man has removed in approximately 4 hours and 15 minutes. Dropped, not yet removed. But that's what a man with the Sawzall and a pair of cable cutters can remove in about that amount of time.
As the crew puts the finishing touches to the remediation, preparations begin for Oriskany's final journey. She'll be towed nearly 600 miles from Corpus Christi, Texas to Pensacola, Florida. That's where the most dangerous phase of the operation will take place. Rigging the bombs that will drop the mighty O to the sea floor. But towing this giant across the Gulf of Mexico poses another risk as hurricane season approaches.
I'm glad she's leaving. I think we've done everything that we was asked to do. And it's time for it to be over. And I think we certainly accomplished everything we came here to do.
The anchors that were buried 8 months earlier have to be dug up and loaded onto the flight deck, along with thousands of feet of chain. They'll come along for the ride and will be used to hold the Oriskany in place on sink day.
Tonight and tomorrow morning, we have the tugs coming in that are going to pull it out. Monday morning, we'll hook up all the tugs. We'll start heading out the channel.
We're parked right up here in the Tulay Lake Channel. The toughest one to get under is this lift bridge right here. I mean, we cleared it coming in, but it was real tight, like 6 or 8 inches. And then we're headed straight back out to the bay and hang.
So I'm going to have all the tugs, all the people, everyone, and if it blows more than 15 miles an hour, I have to start all over again on Tuesday morning. And if it blows again, I got to start all over again on Wednesday morning.
The Oriskany is a dead vessel. That means it's without power or steering ability, so wind conditions have to be calm for the tugs to handle her. With winds blowing over 25 miles an hour, it's too dangerous to leave port.
Well, as you can see today, it's not a good day to go. Today we've got probably 20-knot winds. We can't leave until it's at least 10-knot winds is the maximum. Today it's probably blowing 30 to 40 mile an hour winds.
The pilots cancel. The pilots. But there's always a possibility. You know, this front's coming in, there should be a lull.
As you can see with the wind behind us and the flag and the smoke, with all this wind, it's for sure canceled.
With all crews on standby, the costs are mounting.
It can cost up to $100,000 a day. You have the pilots, the assist tugs, the lead tugs. Put some gas in your car, look at the prices today. I've got 10,000 horsepower tugboats. For one day, that'll burn 7,000 gallons. Just that one boat. Just alone right there is $30,000 in fuel. Then you have the assist tugs, then you have the pilots. Then here they require 4 pilots. Guys, in the morning, we're all gonna come in at 6 o'clock. It may be good weather, it may not be good weather, but if we come in at 6, we're gonna finish early. We'll try to get everything done. Then the following morning, we're gonna do the same thing until the ship leaves.
There's nothing left to do now but gamble on Mother Nature. In Corpus Christi, Texas, the Oriskany has been waiting days for perfect weather, but today's forecast finally looks good.
Roger, roger, they're gonna go ahead and cut that cable free. As soon as the dolphin tug is free, I'll...
Only the tide will tell.
How much clearance did we have the last time? 3 or 4 feet?
I had a guy up there with a sawzall ready to go.
Probably going about 3 knots. I'd rather go going slower. The danger is if it's going fast and it hits something, it's going to damage a lot. If it's going slow, it can touch it.
It's a huge gamble. The tugs aim for the center of the bridge. If the tide is too high, the mighty O will rip it down. With only inches to spare, the Oriskany slips through.
That's a beautiful sight right there, I'll tell you. She's done.
All right.
Her next challenge is to make it to Pensacola, almost 600 miles away. But as she reaches the bay, the tow line snaps. Suddenly, the Oriskany drifts dangerously close to the rocky shore, and the crew realizes that something has gone wrong. Attempts to snag the anchor line fail. The crew of the pilot tug wrestled the chain and finally reconnected to the tow bar. They can complete the journey to Florida, where the final and most dangerous phase of the operation will take place. The Oriskany has finally arrived at the naval base in Pensacola, Florida. The team begins work on the most important phase of the operation, executing the sink plan. The naval engineers have developed a plan that they believe will sink the ship evenly and quickly. Holes are strategically cut through dozens of tanks and chambers.
The Oriskany was built not to sink because of her side protection system, and she's got tanks on either side of her, fore to aft. If it took a hit in the first tank, you had 2 more tanks inside to keep it watertight. Or maybe it would penetrate 2 tanks. You still had 1 more to keep it watertight. So in the sink plan, what they had us do was fill all of these tanks so they're already full of water. So now all of this protection system is now full of water. We flood around it. That's why the unsinkable ship is now sinkable.
It's all about compromising the integrity of the vessel. Double-layered hull, side protection tanks, and thick steel walls must be cut in a precise way to allow seawater to fill the ship evenly and quickly.
Once we get out to the sink site, Frank will have some of his people come down in the space, and they'll remove all of these patches.
Too much water in one side or the other, and the ship will roll over.
Our major deal has been trying to pump the ship down, putting all the ballast in.
Is the route. We want to make sure that
When the aircraft
cable cutters that cut this vessel for very and snag it.
The demolition team.
You know, we do not want to have an accident, and these kind of accidents kill.
The demolition team rushes to complete last-minute cleanup.
If you happen to, and they're all attached to their det cord, kind of green, kind of smooth. Nobody goes below the hangar deck without an escort because we have all of our charges in place and they're all attached to their det cords. The worst could happen would be an uncommanded detonation. If you happen to disturb it, pull it, snag it, just let me know and we'll take a look at it. I cannot stress it enough. You know, we do not want to have an accident, and these kind of accidents kill.
The demolition team rushes to complete last-minute cleanup. But now, they have to work side by side with the bomb squad, making for uncomfortable workmates. One misstep could trigger the explosives. The ship would sink at the dock, and lives would be lost. There's only 24 hours before the Oriskany leaves port. The pressure is on.
The closer we get to the end here, probably the more dangerous it gets because now we're opening every access that we created for the sink. So there's holes everywhere. Every hatch is removed. There's holes in the deck, holes in the bulkhead. Deck plates are gone, which is all planned and supposed to be that way, but it gets hazardous.
Gutted, cleaned, and wired to blow. There's only one thing left to do.
Yeah, let's go sink an aircraft carrier.
Port side to release those tugs whenever the pilot...
Loaded with explosives, the Mighty O is cut loose from her moorings. The Oriskany leaves port for her final resting place.
Yeah, looks good. Come on, guys, put the compass up.
Frank and the demolition team ride along. They monitor the patches and welds and are ready to man the pumps if she begins to take on water.
It's an old ship, and look at her after all the gutting we've done.
The countdown to 0 hour has begun. 25 miles from Pensacola, Florida, the Oriskany floats above her final resting place in the Gulf of Mexico.
NES Harbor Security, this is Alpha Tango. How copy, over?
This is Harbor Security, reaching line clear, over.
Just want to re-clarify, we need a 1,250-foot arc from any point on the Oriskany today.
Roger, sir. We'll maintain the 1250. Harbor Security, MI 740.
Roger.
Under agreement with the state of Florida, the aircraft carrier has to be sunk on a very precise set of coordinates. The tugboats carefully nudge the Mighty O over a buoy that marks the spot.
How far away are we, Robert?
150 feet forward.
Ranger, we're about 350 feet off.
Hey, when it gets close, Frank, give that tug back here a hard to port, and I'll swing the bow over there and get right where you want it.
To ensure the ship stays precisely over the target, the anchors will be deployed in a 4-point anchoring system.
This is the starboard anchor chain, which is connected up above to the island. From here, we're going to have approximately 100 tons of chain and anchor that's going to hold the ship offshore.
Roger,
and this ship...
We're on site. Okay, we're going to cut it.
Frank gives word to cut the anchors loose.
All right, I can flash. Yeah, you're looking good. Flash the anchor. Flash the anchor. Anchor's gone. Wire's stuck.
Last anchor's in the water.
But there are still a few more incisions to be made. Once these sections of the hull are opened up, there's nothing to stop her from sinking.
We cut the 6x6 holes on the side of the ship so that when it comes down to that level, the water will flow in and make the ship sink fast. We're done. It's you guys' job.
We got her. We're standing.
We're crazy, but we're not that crazy to stay here.
One of the final jobs on board the Mighty O is to mount video cameras to capture the explosions. To film the Oriskany sinking from inside the ship, cameras are mounted on the hangar deck. Images from within the sinking vessel that have never been seen before.
It's been pretty smooth since we've been out here, and I expect it's going to remain that way. The weather looks good, but anything can happen. You know, anything can happen.
Final systems are checked and rechecked before the green light to start the countdown. Security is tight, and all ships are kept outside the 1-mile exclusion zone.
Well, my guys are calling the way out here.
The bomb squad rolls out the final lines of detonation cord. They'll connect the explosive charges to the Ike boat.
Continuing. Over. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The charges have blown successfully. But will the Mighty O settle straight on the bottom, or will she go down fighting?
This is really, really strange.
Strange?
Oh yeah, to see her do this. I mean, just eerie. She's taking on a lot of water right now, a lot of water. It appears that she's just about to the third deck right now.
Frank and Don are getting a little concerned as the ship begins to list to the port side.
You're seeing the whole of the flight deck. What's going to happen is the house is going to help to start righting it once it goes down. The only problem is, right now it's listed.
Come on, baby girl. Do what you're supposed to do. She'll level out. She'll level out. She's going to do it her way.
Come on, baby. Roll back over again. Roll back over. Level it up.
In this spectacular footage from the hangar deck camera, a wall of water engulfs the ship. Only 37 minutes after detonation, the Mighty O succumbs to the sea and slips beneath the waves.
It's going to hit the bottom. She's starting to right herself.
Only 37 minutes after detonation, the Mighty O succumbs to the sea and slips beneath the waves. Are only temporary. Mission is